For instance, if I look at my parents, they don't want to take medicines because they feel that the chemicals are going inside the body and that will make them more sick. Again, I'm going to say something controversial, but the biggest cause of deaths in the world is cardiovascular diseases. The second is cancer. And the third is medical error. So the thing that is supposed to prevent you from dying is the third largest cause of death. Do you think somehow the pharmaceutical healthcare industry have let patients down?
Patients tend to forget because they don't have a plan of action. They don't see the need to really put this at their highlight, similar to putting your seatbelt on when you enter your car.
Imagine this. You're sitting in a doctor's office, and after weeks of unexplained fatigue, headache, or something more serious, you finally get a diagnosis. The doctor hands you a prescription, looks in the eye, and says, "Take this exactly as directed. It's crucial for your recovery." You nod, you walk out, pick up the meds from the pharmacy, but then life happens. This happens every single day. This isn't about individual health. It's about the entire healthcare system due to medication non-adherence. And today we are talking to someone who's on a mission to change that. My guest today is Philip Morsky, the Chief Optimist at Adherence, a company at the forefront of tackling patient adherence crisis.
I want to take what my father started and continue his idea of the betterment of healthcare worldwide, leaving the world with something better than what we started with.
He's not just another innovator. He is rethinking the way we approach behavior, technology, and healthcare engagement to solve a problem that costs lives and billions of dollars every year.
I'd say to stick with it, to ask your loved ones, treasure that moment that you have together and ask the right questions. Thinking over the past 2 weeks, was there ever a time when you didn't take your medications for reasons other than forgetting?
So today we are going deep into the psychology of why we skip our meds, the technology reshaping adherence, and what the future of patient engagement really looks like. And based on whatever you have seen so far, what do you think is the biggest cause of non-adherence? Imagine this. You're sitting in a doctor's office, and after weeks of unexplained fatigue, headache, or something more serious, you finally get a diagnosis. The doctor hands you a prescription, looks in the eye, and says, "Take this exactly as directed. It's crucial for your recovery." You nod, you walk out, pick up the meds from the pharmacy, but then life happens. Maybe you forget to take a dose one morning. Maybe the side effects make you feel worse before they make you feel any better. Or maybe, like millions of people, you start feeling okay and think, "Do I really need this?" This happens every single day, not just to a few people, but to 50% of all patients prescribed long-term treatments. Half. Think about that. Now you might be thinking, well, that's their personal choice. But here's the thing. This isn't about individual health. It's about the entire healthcare system. Let's talk numbers. 125,000 preventable deaths occur every year in the US alone due to medication non-adherence. It's responsible for 10% of all hospitalizations. And the financial impact? A staggering $500 billion in avoidable healthcare costs worldwide. But it's not just the medical bills. Millions of medications go unused and expire every year, leading to an estimated $528 billion in medicine wastage annually. So, what's really happening here? We've got cutting-edge treatments, breakthrough drugs, world-class healthcare providers, yet half of the people who need these medications don't take them properly. It's one of the biggest yet most overlooked crises in healthcare. And today, we are talking to someone who's on a mission to change that. My guest today is Philip Morsky, the Chief Optimist at Adherence, a company at the forefront of tackling patient adherence crisis. He's not just another innovator. He is rethinking the way we approach behavior, technology, and healthcare engagement to solve a problem that costs lives and billions of dollars every year. So today we are going deep into the psychology of why we skip our meds, the technology reshaping adherence, and what the future of patient engagement really looks like. Philip, welcome to Drug Diaries.
Thank you, Kaushik.
So let's rewind a bit, Philip. What was the light bulb moment that led you to co-found Adherence? Was there a personal or a professional experience that made you realize this was the problem you had to solve?
Well, let's go back. Let's take a step back and see what medication adherence really is and how this tool, the MMAS, was developed. So the MMAS is the Morisky Medication Adherence Scale. It was actually developed by my father, Dr. Donald Morisky, many, many years ago. His days at Johns Hopkins University, along with Dr. Green and Dr. Levine, he developed he co-authored actually, the Morisky Green Levine Scale, or Medication Adherence Questionnaire. It's a 4-item questionnaire developed in 1986 that addresses adherence related problems. And its original intention was to be a screener tool, elicit behaviors, and such. It's heavily used in clinical trials, clinical studies. Fast forward a couple years later, it developed into a 8-item questionnaire, the MMAS 8. Now, this tool really dives deeper into behavioral health and intervention. It actually identifies and distinguishes between intentional and unintentional adherence, which is the main reason why we have to use this as a foundational approach in addressing behavioral insights into medication adherence, medication taking behavior.
Right. So it was your father's brainchild that he came up with this wonderful idea. And of course, when he was working on this idea, you must have been pursuing your career at a younger age. And when was the point when you decided to join him and be part of this mission?
Over the years, he was an academic instructor. He was a professor at UCLA for almost 40 years in his entire career in behavioral science. He was a department chair at UCLA School of Public Health. He was at WHO. He was a teaching and traveling professor at many distinguished universities all around the world. And I've always talked to him about his school and his research. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago, when he was nearing retirement from a nearly 40-year career, that I really wanted to become involved in what he was doing and what tools he was providing.
Right. That's fascinating. And your title, Chief Optimist, is intriguing. What does a day in your role actually look like? And how do you keep the vision alive while navigating the realities of scaling healthcare solution?
I came up with the title Chief Optimist because Chief Executive Officer, a little bit formal for me. Chief Optimist, the word optimist in itself is Latin for the best. And medication adherence behavior is something that I'm so passionate about that I just kind of embraced it and said, this is my direction. This is my goal. This is what I want to do. I want to take what my father started and continue his idea of beneficence, the betterment of health care worldwide, leaving the world with something better than what we started with.
Right. That's amazing. And every startup has that one defining moment, the breakthrough where you knew you were on the right path. What was that moment for you with adherence?
It's actually not much of a breakthrough as it is just a revelation of an ongoing concern. This tool that we focus our business around, it's a completely relevant tool that's highly focused in research. So every day we get 10, 20, sometimes even 50 researchers and students, academicians, asking to be able to use this tool. How do we use it? What's the scoring? How could we use it in our thesis and dissertation? This is solid research, and research paves the way to clinical practice. So all these people are coming together and asking me, how do we use it? How can we better our own communities? And it's just engaging with them that really drives this passion that I have to make this a center and foundational approach.
Right. So, diving a little bit deeper into the tool, you mentioned that it's a set of questions that the patients have to answer.
That's correct. There's a 4-item questionnaire and an 8-item questionnaire. And the 8-item questionnaire is actually just an additional 4 questions to the original 4. And we've digitized it. We've worked with AI to enhance it. We even have an audio version where the AI chat box, if you will will
Hmm.
continue the conversation and pull those insights from a casual conversation. And that's what this really is. It's just a conversation. And
Right.
sometimes you ask the right questions, you get the right answers.
And once you've uncovered those insights, which I'm sure would reflect the psychological and behavioral patterns of a particular individual, what happens after that once we have
So we have
discovered?
these character profiles. I mean, we've seen enough of scores and raw data to come up with some assumptions that this patient is not adherent because of these reasons. And that's the
Hmm.
whole foundational approach, because you can't kind of throw darts or throw app reminders at 100% of your patient population, because 30% don't take their medication because of side effects, because of lack of education, because of their financial situation. So no matter how many bells or alarms go off, they're not going to take their medication anyway.
Yes.
We want to categorize them and focus and pay more attention to these people with specific and tailored interventions and solutions.
Right. So depending on the score that you receive after making the patient go through the questionnaire, you identify the cause, the underlying cause for non-adherence, and then you address that cause with the right intervention. So if there's, let's say, a gap in awareness or education, then you provide that as an intervention. If it's a factor of forgetting, then there's another intervention and so on. Okay, that's
Exactly. Yeah. I look at our company as more of a foundation or a catalyst. I have, you know, tremendous amount of support and partners in the medication adherence space that I work with, and they are the ones who provide the solutions. So, take for example, I work with this company called InHand Plus, and they provide this digital watch with a
mhm,
built-in camera, and that's an objective measure. So that's actually identifying, the actionable behaviors of taking your medications, what foods you're taking, when it's time to take your medications. So all those together combine for an objective and subjective approach.
right. And based on whatever you have seen so far, what do you think is the biggest cause of non-adherence?
Forgetting and lack of education are the two most common themes. Patients tend to forget because they don't have a plan of action. They don't see the need to really put this at their highlight, similar to putting your seatbelt on when you enter your car or brushing your teeth after a meal. That's a plan of action. You know you have a result. You need to have a action to offset that result.
And do
Likewise,
you,
education. There's so many pills nowadays that you're taking multiple pills for specific regimen, and some people don't see the need for all the pills, but each pill works in conjunction with each other. So you need that education.
right. And do you think the patient's lack of trust or skepticism has got some role to play in the overall non-adherence issue? For instance, if I look at my parents, they don't want to take medicines because they feel that the chemicals are going inside the body and that'll make them more sick. And honestly, I think if you look at, and again, I'm going to say something controversial, but the biggest cause of deaths in the world is cardiovascular diseases. The second is cancer. And the third is medical error. So the thing that is supposed to prevent you from dying is the third largest cause of death. So let's say you give me the responsibility of guarding your house, and I become the third most responsible factor for burglaries in your house, then I mean, I'm not good at my job. So do you think somehow we as an industry, the pharmaceutical healthcare industry, have let patients down?
That's a good question. And when you talk about trust, it also goes back to asking the right questions in the right way. So our tools in particular, we ask in a reverse method. So you're avoiding that social desirability bias. I'm sure every time you go to the doctor and he has maybe 5 minutes to spend with you at a checkup and he says, "How are you doing with your medications?" Obviously the first response, you're probably going to say, more likely than not, "I'm doing fine, doctor. I'm taking my medications just like you told me to."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your fingers are crossed behind your back. So we rephrase the question and say, "Do you sometimes have problems remembering to take your medication?" You reverse that psychology. And that's why this tool has these psychometric properties. You're not asking the patient directly where a yes response is positive. You're asking and you're making them feel more comfortable. You're saying, there's other people like you. You're not alone. So it's the way to build up that trust. Has a lot to do with why our tool is so successful.
Right. Can you share a real world example of how adherence has helped solve a tough patient adherence challenge? Maybe a case study or a story that really stuck with you.
There's so many case studies that we have. The evidence is overwhelming. Pharmacist-led interventions, nurse practitioner-led interventions, using these tools and using dialogue and communication skills have really, enhanced the patient experience. I could list so many articles that have used our tool in these pharmacist-led interventions. And speaking about pharmacists, they're more than just obviously they're more than just drug dispensers. They have these clinical interventions. They're the face of the company. They have that trust in them, and there's so many opportunities for them to enhance the relationship with patients.
Right. And once the root cause is identified for non-adherence, do you also design those interventions, or you just provide the recommendations to the relevant stakeholder to be able to implement that?
We provide data. So from these root cause analysis, we garner so much information in patient behaviors. So we could provide them with suggested ideas, but it's ultimately up to the provider to how they see to use this data most efficiently. And with this new Atlas platform that I'm putting together, it's really taking on data to the next level. And I'm super excited about it.
Right. And how do patients take this entire questionnaire approach? Is it mandatory for them to answer these questions, or they can skip it? Is it a matter of choice?
The way it's structured, you really want to go through these questions one at a time and come up with that intact score. But then after you answer these questions, now you have an opportunity to go back and to see how they responded. And then you have these next level questions that you could ask after that. You really want to dig into that root cause analysis type of look. If they answer yes to a certain question, you ask why. And you keep on asking why until you come up with the barrier that they face. A lot of times it just has a little bit of prodding to really develop that relationship and for them to open up and to be transparent with you.
Right. From a numbers perspective, just how big of a problem is this? What's the financial and clinical toll of non-adherence, and how do you measure success in improving it?
Well, you started with the statistic that nearly half the world's population is not taking their medications as prescribed, and I know that's from the WHO. They've published many articles about that. So actually, what Atlas is doing is it's going to prove that. And on World Adherence Day on March 27, we're opening up Atlas to the entire world to take this medication adherence questionnaire and in real time see what the results are specific to the country, the city, the medical condition. It's data overload, and I'm super excited about it. So it's really, making an approach where billions of dollars are being wasted or lost in non-adherence. If you say that half the patients aren't taking their medication, does that mean that we're throwing away or wasting half these medications that cost people so much money? That's what I want to find out. And that's what I want to fix.
Now, there's a lot of innovation happening in health tech. What's unique about adherence approach in tackling this issue, in your opinion?
So in my opinion, we have a subjective measure, and obviously there's other measures that are subjective and there are other measures that are objective. And it's all actually good to combine objective and subjective measures because you want to have that voice of the patient, but then you also want something validated to bounce off against. So I work with e-pill companies. I work with app reminder companies, digital health platforms. So I'm taking more of a collaborative approach to this entire ecosystem. We can categorize the patients that are non-adherent, and then the other companies could follow behind and kind of like work with us to develop the interventions specific to those parties, to those patients that have been identified. So it saves money, it limits the risk, that healthcare companies and healthcare plans have, it reduces those 30-day hospital readmissions because we have a validated approach to intervention.
Right. And sorry, going back to the questionnaires again, how many questions do patients need to answer? Does that vary from therapy area or disease to disease, or?
It's standardized and it's structured. The 4-item questionnaire is an ideal screener tool. So if you have a patient population of 1,000 and you want to identify very quickly who's has potential to be non-adherent, you'd administer the 4-item questionnaire, which takes 15, 20 seconds to go through each question. And they're only yes or no's. The 8-item questionnaire may be less than a minute as well. And that one really goes into, like I said, patient behavior, problems when you travel or leave home, taking your medication, the last time you're supposed to take it, and all these other valuable questions that off the top of your head you don't think about, but then when you look deeper into that question, it's very relevant. And it took years of experience and trial and error and going through different questions of how to, what are the best questions to ask at the right time. And lately we've been validating our questionnaire in specific medical conditions. So in its generic form, it just asks, basic questions like, do you sometimes forget to take your medication? But when we enhance or be more specific about that medication, possibly like your breast cancer or diabetes, then you increase the sensitivity, specificity, and the reliability of that question.
How does your technology fit into the larger healthcare ecosystem? Can it plug into existing systems like the electronic health records or wearables or remote monitoring tools?
Yes, actually, we are included in several electronic platforms already. CVS Specialty Health has been using it since 2016, I believe, when they got URAC accreditation. Their vendor, Assembia, built the Assembia One platform, and they actually included it into their system. There's other companies that I work with that have leveraged this tool as a starting point. And now they're taking that approach and really, emphasizing the best case use of it. I'd definitely like to be in an EHR system. I've had so many physicians ask me, how could we include it into my chart? How can we get this tool directly in our platform without having to go through a third party? So that's always been the challenge. And I've, went to many conventions and worked with these larger companies, but I'm seeing a lot of success in the smaller clinics and hospitals working directly with the physician and trying to at least, float the idea of a pilot study or, a program where we can use this and definitely prove its efficacy.
Sure. And AI and machine learning are transforming healthcare, obviously. How is adherence leveraging these technologies? Do you see them as game changers for adherence?
Absolutely. This Atlas platform, which is an acronym for Adherence Tools and Location Analytics System, is AI and machine learning, powered by 1,000. So what it is it's taking empirical data that the MMAS library that consists of the MGL, the 4-item, and the 8-item questionnaire consists of probably over 10,000 publications, journals, and articles and research projects all over the world in many different languages. And we take all that data plus a real-time data approach. So a lot of these partner companies that we work with, we actually are able to get that data directly back in real time through API or data sharing, where we host it on a global map. So Atlas is essentially a predictive analytics tool that now government, policy, researchers could actually have these insights as to how they could stratify risk, how they could, take control of situations before the crises occur.
Right. And what's the sort of collaboration you've seen from the pharmaceutical industry? Are they actively supporting this sort of a mission?
Oh, absolutely. On clinicaltrials.gov, we're nearing 500 active or completed clinical trials to date, just in the clinicaltrials.gov website alone. And there's so many other registries around the world that make up these collaborative approaches. And with these sponsors, CROs like IQVIA, big pharma companies, AstraZeneca, Novartis, Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine, we all collaborate together and they leverage our tool as an endpoint or as an outcome measure. And by doing that, we're ensuring that clinical trials are successful, because one of the main reasons these clinical trials fail in the first place is because the patients aren't maintaining their medication regimen. So we can't see if the drug's actually working or not. So
Right.
we're using this tool either as an observational or as an interventional approach, monitoring that patient throughout the life cycle of the clinical trial.
Right. Okay. And talking about challenges and lessons learned, startups in healthcare face unique hurdles from regulations to providers adoption. What's been the toughest challenge you have faced with adherence, and how did you navigate it?
So right now, I would consider us still a startup. I do leverage the relationships I have with drug companies and sponsors like IQVIA, Clario, Clarivate, to have an ongoing source of revenue. And now that we're working with a lot of these partner companies, leveraging our tool, building up our ARR, and building up a cash reserve that we could actually work bigger and start,
Hmm.
making more of a sizable impact in medication adherence.
Are there any particular misconceptions about patient adherence that you come across often, and either from healthcare providers, policymakers, or even patient themselves?
That's a great question. I was at Vive conference once in Los Angeles. There's a booth called Savvy Cooperative, and what it is actually you ask the patient questions. And obviously, I was so enthusiastic about it that I went in there and started asking patients the MMAS 8 questions and the
Right.
insights that I learned from them. One in particular, there was a breast cancer survivor with HER2 positive. And one of the questions was about side effects. And I asked her, the MMAS question that asks specifically, was there ever a time without telling your doctor you stopped taking your medication because you felt worse when you took it? Not surprisingly, she said yes. If that doctor asked me that question, I would have told him that I stopped taking my cancer treatment because of the side effects. And it really hurt me because she went on with her story telling us that the side effects were unbearable and her mental health was really diminished and she lost a lot of relationships from it. So, asking the patients these questions are so relevant and so important that it's really heartwarming when we have success stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always this fear amongst patients that they would be judged if they share the real
Yeah.
story with compliance. And of course, when they meet with the doctor, they say, yeah, we are taking the medication as
Mm-hmm.
prescribed, but that may not be true. And again, going back to my parents' example, my mom and dad, they do that too. So they
Mm-hmm.
skip their meds as soon as they start feeling better, and then they would go to the doctor and say, yeah, we are taking our medication. But so I think there's also a mistrust amongst a lot of patients that play skepticism that play a major role in non-adherence. And as you rightly said, I think education and providing awareness is one of the most promising interventions we could offer to patients like my parents.
Right. Yeah, one of the things is I always like to say is when we measure adherence, we can manage adherence. And managing it takes so many different forms. Just the fact that we're able to look at it from an insightful point of view, working directly with a patient and picking out those quirks or those reasons, the barriers that they face. Some of them are an easy fix, where some of them they're still challenging.
Yes.
One of the other measures is drug refill data, and that's a really
Mm,
good measure from a bird's eye view, but it really only measures access to medication. So I like to emphasize, we have these tools that you could measure quickly as far as access to medication, but access doesn't exactly translate to taking your medication. So we want to be careful about, what methods we use when we measure adherence.
right. Looking ahead, how do you see the landscape of patient adherence evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? What big shifts should we expect?
I think machine learning and predictive analytics is really going to take the center approach. I know AI is a big thing now with hallucinations, where we can't really rely on this. But whatever data we put in is the data that we can come out with. So with our AI, we're only using our own data. We're not using random AI tools around the world that could take data from everywhere. We want to keep it enclosed. We want to make sure that data is filtered and it's relevant and it's validated. So that's, first of all, what I see the industry going to, using validated and reliable data. I know there's a lot of copyright concerns about AI now in the media and in the public, and it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out.
Right. What's one emerging trend in healthcare technology that really excites you?
Just bringing the world closer together. This Atlas tool that I'm working with, I'm getting so much positive feedback about how this could reshape the landscape, and we're really onto something big. And I just could see, the potential for real-time adherence data at the snap of a finger. I think that's going to be really exciting in the next couple of years to see how this tool could actually grow, to work with government, to work with policymakers, and to work with researchers in general. Data is always considered gold, and the more data we have, and the more reliable and actionable data we have, we could really take these tools and take this data and challenge the industry with it, and make reliable products and services that could really create some action.
Leading a company tackling such a massive challenge must require strong vision and adaptability. How has your leadership style evolved over time?
Working with researchers and finding out their needs, and then also working with commercial entities and finding out their needs. There's always been a happy medium where I've worked with both academic and commercial in the same path. And it's exciting that there's so much interest in the academic approach, which translates to the commercial approach down the line, because all students eventually become the leaders of these big companies. And even just several years ago, I've come across a lot of students that have used the tool in their final dissertations, and now they're leading big companies and using it again. And it's a great thing to see that everything is connected.
Right. And if you could give one piece of advice to other healthcare entrepreneurs trying to solve complex problems, what would it be?
It would be the advice that I've been given, to stick with it and never give up. You see a passion and you have a desire to just see it all the way through, even if other people don't acknowledge it. I like to relate to LinkedIn. You have so many followers, and you got, maybe 1 or 2 or 10 people who engage, but you're really pushing out a message to the world in general. And some people like it, some people like it but don't acknowledge it. And it's just getting yourself out there and sticking with it and having that passion 24 hours a day that keeps me going at the rate I'm going and the speed I'm going. Plus meeting all these interesting people like yourself. We met in Barcelona, just random places around the world, and developing these relationships and having like-minded people to come together. And regardless of how much money this is going to make, or who's going to eventually pay for it, those questions are downshadowed or downplayed by the fact that we're going to say, how do we really improve patient outcomes? What is the approach that we can take that put aside profit, put aside shareholders, and just come up with what can we do to make this world better?
Right. Are there any particular therapy areas where you've seen the problem of non-adherence bigger than the others?
I could see that the GLP-1s are actually improving and making it easier. Once a week injections are definitely helping out adherence. Polypills actually are something that there was actually a recent article in the New England Journal of Medicine that examined the polypill strategy. And they actually used the MMAS to validate that study. So I think there's an opportunity to improve adherence with these new technologies.
Can you give us a sneak peek at what's coming next for adherence? Any exciting developments or new features in the pipeline?
Yes, there's a lot of new features, and Atlas is one product that I'm pushing, but the collaborations that I'm establishing with universities, teaching hospitals, and pharmacy practices all around the world is just a little taste of what the potential is and what this reach could actually get to. I just had a call this morning with the private hospital in Costa Rica who's really interested in working with me specifically to prove adherence is a major factor in hospitalizations, and how can we combat that. So that's an exciting development, as well as all the other partnerships I had. And then World Adherence Day. This is the first day that the World Heart Federation is going to establish an actual day that adherence is not only celebrated and recognized, but it's going to take action. And that's what my whole theme is: action over acknowledgement. That we could, or action over recognizing, because we have all these, historical days, but if we can actually do something positive on these days, I think it's just going to be a lot better place for the world.
Yeah, very well said. I think acknowledgement alone isn't enough. Action combined with acknowledgement is what is going to make a difference. So very well said.
Yeah, so that's why I'm spearheading this campaign where everybody in the whole world is actually invited to participate, and it's all anonymous data. And we'll actually get a snapshot in time of the adherence rates. And I'm looking at maybe 1,000 people are going to join in, but it could be 5,000, it could be 10,000. Sky's the limit.
That's amazing.
And this is just one glimpse of what we can do with this data. Data again, I can't emphasize enough how valuable data is, and to get more data is just a blessing, not even in disguise of this tool. It's actually what the tool provides. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. Scaling impact in healthcare can be tough. How do you envision adherence expanding globally and reaching more patients and more geographies?
I like the way I'm scaling right now. It's small but manageable. And until it becomes unmanageable, I think we're doing a good job of mostly just getting people aware of this product and this tool, because it's been around in this clinical study for so long. Now it's finally getting into action. And they always say that it takes about 8 to 10 years to get something from clinical study into clinical practice. And we're at that point where, more hospitals, more patients, and more healthcare providers are seeing this as a useful tool to really get it out there. And the fact that we could translate it into multiple languages, reaching the smallest villages in Central Africa to the biggest technology hospitals in Germany. It's one tool out of a whole array of tools that could actually unite our world closer together. And that's what I really like to see, how this is scaling up. We'll always have the clinical research and always have the studies going through, but working with innovators and different companies is just watching this potential grow like wildfire. And eventually it can't be stopped, or it can't be controlled by myself alone. So I'm looking forward to the day when more people want to help out in this initiative.
I'm sure it's not far. I think what you're doing is an incredibly powerful initiative, and I'm sure it's appreciated widely, and it has a very high potential of adoption in the years to come. So I'm sure this is going to be huge.
Thank you very much.
Philip, what keeps you personally motivated to push forward in this space? What drives you to keep innovating?
The time is right now. Everything is right. They always say that it takes 8 to 10 years to really get a tool out there from validation and clinical study to put it into practice. And with this Atlas platform and World Adherence Day, I think that's going to be a big change in the way people see adherence, and to get my message out there. I want to work directly. I am working directly with the World Heart Federation to be the change, make this a day that everybody in the world could participate in, no matter how small of an impact they think they might be. Somebody in New Zealand or somebody off the coast of Madagascar could take this a survey and really push it out there as far as average adherence levels. And now we could start identifying areas of concern and population health. So this is just a passion of mine that I've always seen, and hearing, stories where we're improving adherence rates across the country in case studies that I've highlighted on my website before, that really making these positive impacts.
Wow, Philip, your passion is really inspiring.
Thank you.
If there's one message you would love our listeners to take away about patient adherence and its impact on healthcare, what would it be?
I'd say to stick with it, to ask your loved ones to really treasure that moment that you have together and ask the right questions. Instead of asking, I talk about, instead of asking how you're doing with your medications, really go in there and ask the question: do you sometimes forget? Do you have problems remembering? Thinking over the past 2 weeks, was there ever a time when you didn't take your medications for reasons other than forgetting? Just go through the MMAS 8 questions and pick their brain and really see how their responses could spur or generate a deeper conversation. And that's what it's all about. It's using the right questions at the right time and really focusing on the responses and identifying the barriers that they face. Because there's so many tools that claim that they could identify non-adherence, but this is the one tool that could actually tell you why they're not taking it. So that's what separates. That's the separation part. Finding that why is the golden tool, and you really only could find that through behavioral intervention.
Absolutely. I think I really find that very powerful. What you said about the tool is the element of judgment.
Right.
So that the patients feel comfortable in responding to those questions and they don't feel they're being judged for the choices they made or for forgetting. So that's a very powerful insight. Before we conclude the episode, for those who want to learn more about adherence or even collaborate, where can they find you?
I'm always up for collaboration, and I say that with a caveat that I'm sure I'm going to get a flood of emails following this broadcast.
Yes, I'm sure.
And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But collaborations of any size, whether it's academic, individual, collaborative, or commercial, I welcome. My website is adherence.cc. It's very easy to remember. And just send me an email or send me a note. I'm on social media as well, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And I'm just excited to work with anybody who sees adherence as a one thing that we can actually work on with small tools like this. It doesn't take millions and billions of dollars to really make an impact when all it involves is talking to people. I go to conferences and conventions a lot too, so you might find me randomly walking down the trade show hall and jumping into conversation with anybody who's interested.
What's the next conference you're looking forward to attending?
I was at ISPOR last year in Barcelona. I think this year's in Montreal. I'd like to go to that. There are a lot of medication adherence focused initiatives. ECOA in Washington, D.C. might be an opportunity for me. But I'm local to California, in Southern California in particular. So if there's any bio or anything else I could think of, definitely I'm willing to jump in and fly to. Have plane will travel.
Right. I had a chance to attend the EPA conference last week in Amsterdam, and I met with a lot of people who work in a similar space, and they all recognize you. So, yeah, and I will share more after this interview about the conversations I had. Yeah, but you're making an incredible impact out there. So you have good visibility, and everybody knows you, which is great. Yeah,
for me, I'm one person, but this tool could translate to millions and billions of people all around the world. So if we all get on the same pages and have that one common message, this tool could actually reunite the world in a positive impact. So I'm happy to be introduced to any of your contacts that can see the same vision as I do.
Philip, this conversation has been absolutely fascinating. We have explored the real-world impact of medication non-adherence, the staggering cost it has on patients and healthcare systems, and most importantly, the innovative ways adherence is tackling this challenge head-on. It's clear that your work is making a tangible difference in people's lives, and I can't wait to see how adherence continues to evolve and scale its impact. A huge thank you for joining us today and for sharing your expertise, experiences, and vision with our audience. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on Drug Diaries. And to our listeners, if today's conversation sparked new thoughts, if you're working on similar challenges, or if you simply want to learn more about Philip's work, be sure to check out Adherence and connect with Philip. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Until next time, stay curious and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in healthcare. See you in the next episode.